Middle-earth is a place where fantastical creatures exist in a multitude of forms and each bearing a different degree in their allegiances towards good or evil. While there are races like men or dwarves that can be considered morally grey, meaning they can either be good or evil, there are also others which are completely in the dark, serving the shadows of either Morgoth or his lieutenant Sauron in the latter ages. Most of these, like orcs, trolls, wraiths and wargs, are said to be minions of either of the Dark Lords, completely dominated by their master's dark will. However, there are other dark creatures and entities that, at least in the latter ages, the Third Age to be more precise, exist in a more independent manner, in a way that even the power of Sauron holds no sway over them. These creatures would have their own domains and act according to their own will or nature. Sauron was never seen to command them, or even influence them, or even try to conquer them, for though their powers cannot match his, their wills cannot be dominated. So let's take a look at 5 of them here. The first one is Shelob. She was one of the great spiders of Middle-earth, one that traced their origins to Ungoliant, a primordial malevolent being of the Elder Days, a former ally of Melkor, who consumed light and bred countless monstrosities in the hidden valleys of Beleriand, particularly in Nandon-Gorthab. After Ungoliant departed the world and was said to have consumed herself out of her own nature of being forever hungry, her offsprings inherited her monstrous form and instincts, spreading across dark and remote corners of Middle-earth. Here we find Shelob, the last of her great progeny, who was born as Ungoliant's child, carrying the full legacy of her mother's cunning, malice, and adaptability. Unlike her kin, Shelob survived well into the Third Age, establishing herself in the Efelduath mountain range near Mordor, long before Sauron ever consolidated his power there. Her form was grotesque and terrifying, a bloated black body with a pale, luminous belly, a venom-dripping beak, multiple clawed and spiny legs, a venomous sting, and a cluster of many windowed eyes, which are sensitive to light. Her skin was nearly impenetrable, laid like armor, leaving only her eyes as vulnerable spots, while her intelligence and instinct made her an extraordinarily efficient predator. Shelob's nature was entirely self-serving. She fed on living creatures, which are elves, men, dwarves, even orcs, mating only to then consume her offspring if she has the chance, and then her surviving broods would spread across the Efelduath and nearby regions. Though Sauron was aware of her presence and tolerated her as a strategic god of the past to Cirith Ungol, he would not command her. She instead acted on her own ancient instincts rather than obedience to any Dark Lord. In this sense, Sauron and Shelob were uneasy partners in crime, much like a reflection of Morgoth and Ungoliant. He exploited her for defense and occasionally used her to dispose of prisoners, yet she remained autonomous, hunting, feeding, and reproducing accordingly to her own predatory desires. Shelob embodies the terrifying independence of Arda's oldest predators, of creatures that even the Dark Lord cannot bend to his will, demonstrating that some forces in Middle-earth are beyond control, governed only by their own ancient, inscrutable intelligences. The second one here is Smaug. The dragons of Middle-earth are ancient, monstrous, and sinister creatures whose origins can be traced back to Morgoth, the first Dark Lord. During the War of Wrath, Morgoth bred them in secret in his dungeons of Angband, crafting them as weapons of terror and agents of destruction to dominate elves, men, and dwarves alike. Every dragon was endowed with immense strength, resilience, and the ability to breathe fire, well, at least later on for the Uroloki, but they were also highly intelligent, cunning, and fiercely independent. They were driven by greed and lust for treasure, which made them unpredictable. Even their creator could not fully control their desires once they had matured. The first was Glaurung, and the biggest was Encalagon, who led the charge against the host of the Valar before the defeat of Morgoth. Over the centuries, many dragons spread across Middle-earth, with the latter ages only seeing mostly cold drakes infesting mountain ranges such as the Grey Mountains and the Ered Mithrin, but still leaving destruction and desolation in their wake. So here we come to Smaug, the greatest of the dragons of the Third Age. He first appeared in the year 2770 of the Third Age, when he attacked the Lonely Mountain and the town of Dale, claiming the dwarves' treasure for himself and driving the survivors into exile. Unlike many of his kin, Smaug combined overwhelming physical power with a keen intellect, a shrewd sense of smell, and a remarkable cunning. He was vast in size, covered in impenetrable red golden scales, and was capable of exhaling or breathing a devastating fire. Smaug's personality was marked by arrogance, vanity, and an obsessive love for his hoard, his treasure hoard, which he guarded meticulously. Even Gandalf feared that if Sauron could have gained Smaug's allegiance, the Dark Lord might have wielded him as a devastating weapon in the Northern Lands, yet Smaug could not be commanded nor tamed. Like all dragons, his loyalty was to himself alone. He might cooperate temporarily if it suited his interests, but no external power, not even Sauron at the height of his strength, could bend him to obedience. Smaug's independence, intelligence, and destructive nature made him a uniquely dangerous force, capable of reshaping regions and instilling fear across Middle-earth purely through his own volition. And I bet that the only one who can command Smaug would be Morgoth, his creator. So now that brings us to the third one. Here we have the Balrog of Moria. So Balrogs, known as Valorokar, were originally Maia spirits, which were created by Eru Ilúvatar to serve the Valar, who were corrupted by Morgoth during the earliest days of Arda. These Maia became fearsome demons of shadow and flame, clothed in fire, darkness, and terror, wielding whips of flame and swords made of fire and shadow. Their corruption came both from Morgoth's earliest allure during his twisting of the music of the Ainur, and later through the lies and treacherous gifts that he would disperse amongst them. In Middle-earth, they acted as his lieutenants and commanders, leading armies of orcs and other creatures during the wars of Beleriand. Balrogs were immensely powerful. They were evil Maia that could only ever be subject to Morgoth. In the Third Age of Middle-earth, there was only one ever Balrog known to still exist. This was Durin's Bane, the Balrog of Moria. He who survived the War of Wrath and went into hiding deep within the roots of the Misty Mountains. For over 5 millennia, he slumbered undisturbed beneath Khazad-dûm, until the dwarves of King Durin VI awoke him while mining for Mithril too deep. In the year 1980 of the Third Age, the Balrog would slay Durin VI, earning his name, Durin's Bane, and drove the surviving dwarves out of Moria, ruling the abandoned halls for centuries, while only allowing orcs and trolls to dwell in his domain, and that too out of fear. When the Fellowship of the Ring passed through Moria, Gandalf confronted Durin's Bane at the bridge of Khazad-dûm, leading to a duel that culminated on the peak of Zirak-Zigil, where both Balrog and Gandalf perished before Gandalf would later return as Gandalf the White. Like all Balrogs here, Durin's Bane was utterly independent and immune to the control of even powerful beings such as Sauron. As a corrupted Maia, they would only ever serve Morgoth, as they all only bear allegiance to him alone. Balrogs retained their own wills. Their immense power and malevolent intelligence was far too much for Sauron to control, making them more like dark partners than servants. They could choose when, where, or how to act. Sauron could not command them directly, and any alliance between them would be tenuous at best, based purely on mutual interest rather than obedience. Durin's Bane's centuries of isolation in Moria illustrates this autonomy. He acted solely according to his own desires, laying waste to intruders and dominating the mountain deeps without interfering outside, demonstrating that the Balrog were forces of chaos unto themselves, beyond the dominion of even the Dark Lord of Mordor. Now next we come to the Watcher in the Water. This is one of Tolkien's most mysterious and unsettling creatures, a denizen of the Misty Mountains' hidden deeps, whose nature is intentionally left largely unexplained. This one resides in a dark, stagnant pool formed by the damming of the river Ciranon outside the west gate of Moria, a place so remote and secret that even the dwarves' extensive knowledge of the mines could not really fully anticipate it. The creature's visible parts are its many tentacles, which are long, sinuous, pale green, and luminous, each ending in a finger-like appendage, capable of incredible strength and able to seize Frodo and nearly drag him into the water, and these can also rip up massive trees and close the stone gates behind the Fellowship. These actions demonstrate not only its raw power, but also a kind of instinctive intelligence, suggesting that its movements are purposeful rather than random. However, its origins are unknown, as Gandalf himself admits to never have encountered anything like this creature and can only speculate where it came from, maybe the deep places of Middle-earth from the Misty Mountains. This suggests that the Watcher, like the nameless things far below Arda, is not a creature created, bound, or controlled by Sauron or any of Morgoth's servants. Rather, it exists independently of the hierarchical powers of Middle-earth, drawing its existence from the primeval hidden layers of the world itself. Its behavior is neither malevolent in a human sense nor even good. It acts according to its own instincts, perhaps to guard its lair or the passage of Moria, but without allegiance to any Dark Lord. Even Sauron, who can dominate men, beasts, and lesser spirits, was never hinted to have control over it, because the Watcher's existence and its agency are rooted in forces older and deeper than the schemes of the Dark Lord. It embodies Tolkien's concept of primordial, autonomous beings in Arda. ancient, unknowable, and beyond the dominion of any power, serving as a reminder that some elements of the world's deep history remains untouchable and inherently mysterious. And so we end with the fifth ones, the nameless things. These are ancient enigmatic entities that predate even the arrival of the Maia, making them older than Sauron himself. They dwell in the deepest caverns beneath the mountains, in regions so remote that not even the most daring dwarves have encountered them, and their habitats extend back to the elder days. They are described as more slimy than fish. They prefer total darkness and remain largely hidden, withdrawing further into the depths whenever orcs or other subterranean dwellers expand their tunnels. Their knowledge of these labyrinthian passages is so innate that even powerful beings like Durin's Bane had to rely on these passages that they created to navigate Moria's deepest reaches. These creatures are wholly independent of the powers of Morgoth and Sauron, belonging to the very foundations of the world rather than any hierarchy of Valar, Maia, or Dark Lords. As such, no force, neither Sauron's dominion or the machinations of the greatest servants of evil, can bend them to their will. They exist as primordial, untamable aspects of Ardor, gnawing at its secret veins far beneath the light of day, serving as a reminder that some forces in Tolkien's world are utterly beyond comprehension or even control. So these are the 5 dark creatures that still existed in the Third Age of Middle-earth that were not under the dominion of Sauron, but acted on their own accord. Now, if you like this video, then watch this other one too, the one in the end screens, and do hit the like button for support, and for the ones viewing this in their phones, well, you know the drill. Press the hype button as well for hyping up the video to other viewers. Also, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care, fam.